welcome back. This is lesson 2.1 where we're going to start talking about the differences between decimals, fractions, and percents. We're going to take two a day and talk about how to convert between them. Today it's decimals and fractions. So in your table of contents, you're going to write that we are on page 37. We're going to be here for a while. You received one white piece of paper that looked like this, so you're going to need that. Please fill in the table of contents. We are converting fractions, decimals, and percents. So what you're going to need to do is actually take the foldable and fold so that you have 3 columns. So you're going to take your page and fold on the vertical solid line. And then you're going to take your scissors and cut any dotted line. When you're done, you should have 3 big doors on the right and 6 little doors on the left, like so. And what you're going to need to do is close the little doors in first, and then the big door goes on the outside. And so that you should be looking at it all complete. There you go, like that. This is what's going to get glued onto page 37. We're going to be here for about 3 lessons in this foldable. Go ahead, cut and fold as you need. The idea of a fraction and a decimal and converting between the two is the big question of, can you get the denominator of the fraction to be a 10, 100, or 1,000? If you can, that makes your life a lot simpler. If you can't, we're going to divide. So in your foldable, looks like this. You're going to actually take the top door and open it up, because we are going to be converting from fractions, how to change a fraction to a decimal. And we're going to open up the very first door. And that's what my picture is over here. Now there's actually 3 sections. There's a section over here, the back of the big door, there's the middle, and then there's the one on the right-hand side. We're going to be writing inside the foldable. So I've kind of zoomed up into this center part. We're going to write a couple of things in there to remind us how to convert from a fraction to a decimal. So the first thing I want you to actually write down is that idea that 10 is my friend. And so is 100 and 1,000. So I do have some things to write underneath. Make sure that this statement doesn't take up the entire box. When you can't get a fraction into a 10, 100, or 1,000 in the denominator, you're going to have to divide. So you're going to draw a division symbol to remind yourself that you're going to take the fraction and put the numerator as your dividend, and your denominator, I ran out of room, to the abbreviation, is going to be your divisor. So those are the 2 things you need to remember when you're converting. You want to try to get the denominator to be a 10, 100, or 1,000. If you can't, you have to divide. Now on the farther flap, the one all the way to the right, this little guy, we're going to do some examples. First example is we have the fraction 2/5. We want to try to get this denominator to be a 10 or 100 or 1,000. We can make this a 10 by multiplying by a form of 1. And we multiply across, that's 4. 5 times 2 is 10. This we like. How do you read that fraction? 4 tenths. That will end up being the decimal. 4 tenths is the decimal point 4 in the tenths place. And we're done. So it's easy when you can go 10, 100, or 1,000, because those are the place value, places to the right of the decimal. Remember this is the tenths place, hundredths place, thousandths place. Right. The second example is going to be the fraction 6/16. This is the only other example we're doing on this side. There is not a way that I can get this 16 to be a 10 or 100 or 1,000 by multiplying. So what I'm going to have to do is put the 6 on the inside and the 16 on the outside and divide. The key though, this is smaller. That makes sense. A fraction is less than 1. So when we have to divide, we are going to end up annexing zeros. So I actually want you to write that so you don't forget. We're going to end up annexing zeros when we divide fractions to find their decimal equivalent. So because we don't have a lot of room to actually divide the fraction out on this little strip, we're actually going to move over to this, the back of the front cover. So the back of this guy, we're actually going to divide. So I have this space here for us. We are going to have 6 and then 16. We're going to annex a 0, so it's 60. Remember, the decimal point goes there. We're going to hold the place value with the 0. And then 16 times 3 is going to be 48. When we subtract, we're going to have a 2 and a 1. We have to annex and keep going. We have 120. That's actually going to be a 7, because 16 times 7, 42, and then 7 and 4 is 11. So we have 1, 1, 2. And I'm running out of room. Hopefully you're writing smaller so that you're not going off of that white part of the foldable. I'm just going to keep going though. And we have an 8. We have to go 1 more. And luckily, 16 times 5 is 80, so we will get a 0 after that. So this fraction is the decimal 0.375. The second thing we're going to do is open up we're going to close the top. We're going to open up the middle door because we want to also write notes about how to change a decimal to a fraction. So we're going to open up the decimal door. Sorry, it's moving all around here. And then we're also going to open up the fraction little door. So we're going to be in the middle of our foldable. You can see it here as well. The middle door is open. We have this space here, and then we have the little guy over on the right. So I've zoomed into the middle. The trick for going the other way, when you're given a decimal and you need to find the fraction, is to actually read the decimal as a math number. Show you what that means when we actually do an example over there. Then, after you've read the number, you might need to simplify the fraction. It's always a good idea, if possible, to simplify it. And those are the 2 steps. So we're going to go right over to the right and practice these steps. Converting a decimal to a fraction. So here I am on the right-hand side. We're going to start with the decimal 0.89. And I specifically said it that way to talk about what it means to read a decimal in as a math number. You're going to say this decimal with the appropriate place value place. So sometimes we cheat, we're shortcutting it, and we say 0.89. But for this case, we want to read this decimal as a math number, meaning this number is 89 hundredths. So we're actually going to write out those words. 89 hundredths. Now we have the place value place of hundredths. How many hundreds do we have? 89. So that becomes the fraction 89 over 100. So once you read the actual number with the place value place becomes the denominator and the digits become the numerator. Here's another example. We're going to do 0.6. How do you read that decimal? 6/10. So you're saying the digit 6, and then the place value place it's in the tenths place. The tenths place tells you the denominator of the fraction, and then the 6 is the numerator. So once you read the number, you actually have your fraction already. For this one though, we need to simplify, because this 6 and 10 are numbers both divisible by 2. When we divide by 2 over 2, we will get 3/5, and that is the fraction in simplest terms, or reduced. So this is page 37 in your notebook. On the back or the next page, we're just going to have that blank for any examples that we want to do in addition to the ones that we did in our foldable. So it's not going to have a page number, it's just going to be our workspace. And I have these two examples for you to copy down and try. We're going to convert this to a decimal. I know I have it horizontal, but if you're writing it down, it's the same thing as writing the 16 on the top and the 25 on the bottom. Sometimes my formatting is a little off, so I apologize. So this would be the same thing as 18 over 90. The number on the left is the numerator, the right guy is the one on the bottom. Go ahead and try those. My goal is to try to get this to be a 10 or 100. If I know my facts, 4 times 25 is 100. So 16 times 4 would be, if you didn't know it, scratch it out here, 24 and 84. So 84 hundredths tells us the place value place to go out to. And so this will be 0 and 84 hundredths. For the second one, you should have possibly realized that 90 will reduce down to 10 by dividing by 9. So if we divide and simplify this, we then can write it as a decimal. So sometimes you're going to need to multiply, sometimes you're going to need to divide. And when I divide, I get 2/10. Again, the 10 tells you the place value place, and then the 2 tells you what number is sitting in that place value place, 2/10. Let's do 2 more. These are 2 decimals now that we're going to make into fractions. So go ahead and try it, and then push play. We're going to read this decimal as a math number. 95 hundredths is the fraction with the 95 in the numerator and the 100 in the denominator. Can we simplify this? That's your next question. Because they end in a 0 and a 5, we can divide by 5. Scratch it out on the side. I have 19. And then if you think of money, those 5 cents, if you have 20 of them, that would give you $1. So I always like to think of money when I'm dealing with 100 or $1. And so this would be our fraction equivalent to 95 hundredths. Let's try the second one. This number is 43 thousandths. That means the 43 is in the numerator and the 1,000 is in the denominator. Can we simplify this? There's nothing in common between the number 43 and 1,000, so we are done. Tomorrow we're going to practice converting between fractions and decimals and fractions, and I'll see you then.